Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about not this guitar, but a guitar that everybody's talking about at the minute. It's the new Fender Standard Series, Stratocaster in particular, but there's also Telecasters and other things. Anyway, I was in the guitar shop yesterday and I thought, right, I'm going to give one of those a go, have a look, see what all the fuss is about. Now, as you can probably tell, this isn't a Fender Standard Series. This is the Fender Player One Series Strat. So what I'm going to do with you today is just run through the differences between this and the new Fender Standard Series Strat. There's been sort of a lot of negative things said about the new Standard Series. Some I agree with, some I don't, but let's just run through it anyway. But before I do, what is it? So the new Fender Standard Series is, for the first time, a Fender series made not in Mexico or the USA, but Indonesia. So, traditionally, the cheapest way that you can get a Fender on the headstock is by going for a made in Mexico. The range previously to this was called the Standard Series. This is the player, and that was made in Mexico. So I'm not sure where Fender are going with this, to be honest. There's a few. It's a confusing range for me. I'm going to go through why I think it's confusing in this video. But yeah, it's priced at 499 British pounds. So that that places it above the classic vibes, the highest end squares, but below the made in Mexicos. I mean, I think these are over £600 now, so these are about at least £100 more expensive, and this is the better guitar. I'll say that straight away. But yeah, let's just go through the differences from the headstock all the way down, shall we? So, starting at the headstock, the Standard Series has got a slightly different logo. It's kind of the all black, a little bit like the old made in Mexico Standard Series Strats. It hasn't got the original contoured body transfer. Another difference, this is particular to this guitar, is mine's got the sort of 75th Fender anniversary transfer, which is it's particular to this guitar. Obviously hasn't got that. Just another quick difference. Some people have said they're the same tuners, right? But what I noticed is they do look the same. These are non-staggered, sort of modern style machine heads. But what I did notice was, if we just flick it over, I noticed the space kind of between the top of the tuner and the top of the headstock seemed to be quite a bit more on the Standard Series. It doesn't seem as much of a gap on the Player Series, which is a strange thing. So yeah, it seems to be that the tuners are positioned differently on the new Standard Series. Weird. Anyway, so that's that. I'm not really going to talk about the sort of the nut and the actual fret job and stuff like that, because what I will say is it's always been an absolute lottery when it comes to made in Mexico Player Strats. Terrible original nut on this. It's probably going to be the same for the Standard Series. I've seen people talk about them. The nuts aren't cut right. What I've done with this is this has now got a Graphtec nut on there. I can't remember which variety it is, but it's perfect now. It's perfect height, string slots cut perfectly. So yeah, I'm not going to compare the nuts. They'll be terrible on both. You'll probably notice I haven't got the sort of the butterfly string tree. The Player does originally come with the butterfly type, which also are terrible, which I've replaced it with the new sort of the nicer and better functioning sort of USA standard. yeah, the standards come with the butterfly ones as well. Only the one string tree, which again is a problem on both. Now you can definitely, hold on, I don't know if you can hear that, but there's definitely what's called sympathetic resonance, you know, behind on the G, and that's because really these guitars need either 2 string trees or they need to have staggered posts. Now I'm going to sort of go off tangent a bit here. I don't think the solution to that is staggered string posts or even more winds, because I have tried locking tuners with staggered posts on this guitar. It didn't fix it. I think the fix for this is really simple. Just wrap a bit of thread around the G if you're that bothered about it, which I'm not really. But I'm just getting into the details here. Let's talk about the neck. So the neck on the new Fender Standard series feels bigger than this. I'm not sure about the dimensions, but it definitely feels, this Player Series steel feels like it's a thinner neck. It feels faster, but I don't think there's anything wrong with the new Standard series neck. It's just a bit bigger in the hands. Some people will prefer that. I prefer this. It's just faster. Medium C, bit more bulk, bit more vintage style, I think, on the Fender Standard series. Just flipping over. This has the skunk stripe, and the Fender Standard series doesn't. So obviously the truss rod's going to go underneath the board. The frets, couldn't really discern much of a difference, if I'm honest with you. What I will say is, and you know, this guitar has been plagued with issues. I'm not going to defend this guitar in any way. Terrible frets on this guitar, uneven frets. With a lot of work, I've finally got it down to about 4/64ths, you know, on the high E string. It's got a nice fast action now. Eventually, 3 years later, I'll probably do another video on that. Anyway, the Fender Standard series, pretty much the same kind of experience, but what I will say is that, and I guess it's going to be the same, right? I don't think, I can't prove it, because the guitar shops, they set the action so high, and I think that's to mask bad fretwork. So the action on this Fender Standard series that I tried in the store was just so high, it was just pointless. So I think, yeah, I think they do that to hide potential issues with uneven frets. So let's just call it a draw with the fretwork. You know, bending strings, I couldn't really detect the frets to be like, you know, scratchy or anything. It was fine. You know, had a sunburst with the sort of the laurel fingerboard, and that is a difference, by the way. So if you want to go for the kind of rosewood, it's Indian laurel on the new Fender Standard series. On this is Pau Ferro, which I think is far superior. You know, look how dark that is. You know, I think, yeah, it's definitely a downgrade, I think, to your fingerboard material. The new Fender Player 2 series is going back to rosewood, or has gone back to rosewood. So, but you know, I think Fender got it right with the Player 1, to be honest, but that's going to be another video too. Anyway, so yeah, that's the frets. The main thing for me, and the main thing which is going to stop me from buying, or a lot of people from buying the Fender Standard series, is they've gone for 21 frets, right? So I think that's pretty cynical by Fender, you know, because we'll get to this sort of the trem system in a moment, but they've kind of gone for a modern-ish type guitar, right? So you've got the modern style tuners, you haven't got the vintage tuners. You know, you've got a quite, I suppose it is a bit of a chunkier neck, right? But they haven't given that 22nd fret. I think the reason, cynical reason, they haven't give you 22 frets is because if they did, I don't think as many people would upgrade to the Player series. You know, I think they would just say, right, that's good enough for me. It's got Fender on the headstock. That's all that people want, isn't it? Sometimes Fender and the headstock. I need 22 frets. A lot of people need 22 frets. I just like bending up to the second octave there. But yeah, Fender have deprived you of that 22nd fret quite cynically, I think. And I'll give you more reasons as we go through this thing. Yeah, so 21 frets, big no for me. I need 22. Yeah, I mean, let's just talk about the finishes that are available. You know, which is, I think, another negative of the new Fender Standard Series. So you can get, this is polo. This is my favourite finish for a Strat, right? Sort of rosewoodish type neck, polar white. This is my favourite look for a guitar. There it is. And you can get it in the Player 1 series from Fender, not the Player 2. And you'll struggle to get it in sort of, can you get it in the American Pro? I'm not sure. But anyway, you can't get this in the Player 2 range, and you can't get it in the Fender Standard range. You can get Olympic white, but with a maple fretboard, which doesn't look as nice in my opinion. And in fact, the Olympic white doesn't look as nice as the polar white, because the Olympic white is a little bit creamier than this. You know, a little bit, there's a bit of a yellow tinge in there. I mean, some people might prefer that, but I prefer that. I think this is the best colour for a Strat. So there you go. And there's another tick in the Player 1 box. Right, so pickups. So these are Fender's Anglico 5. On the Fender Standard series, the ceramic. So it's going back to the sort of the old Mexican Standard series, which predates this, which is the predecessor of this, should I say. Some people do prefer those ceramic pickups. They think they're higher output, better for rock, you know. I think probably a lot more players prefer these. Big claim. I prefer these. These are higher output than a sort of vintage style Strat Anglico, but it's got the clarity, but it's got a little bit more oomph, not as much oomph as the ceramics. It's a preference thing. So, depends what you like really, doesn't it? You choose that one. The electrics and the sort of the hardware, I mean, by all accounts, it's a lot more solid on this, the Player series. You know, this has got the full-size pots, this has got nice switches. You know, I can just see the nice details in this. You can see brass, you know, behind there and whatnot, and it feels solid. The Fender Standard series does feel cheaper, because it is cheaper. It's £100 cheaper, at least. Probably more like £150 cheaper, if I'm being honest. Right? So yeah, the electrics are an upgrade, I think. Or should I say, the electrics are a downgrade if you go for the Fender Standard series. Yeah, the switch does feel a lot more solid on this. We'll just have to take people's word for the electrics. Still full-size pots on the Standard, but apparently of a lesser quality. We'll see. Now here's a big surprise, right? So the tremolo on this is, you know, it's quite bulky, and it came installed with, you know, the rubbish bent steel saddles, which I got rid of them straight away and replaced it with block steel, which guess what? You get that come with the Fender Standard series. That comes with the block steel. That's a big win in my opinion, right? Block steels are better than bent steel, right? They're just easier to live with, easier to adjust. You're not messing about with the tiny little height adjustment screws. You've got that trouble in there. I've done another video on that. Check out the channel, right? I'm not going to get into that now. But this is a pretty solid tremolo system, you know, now that it's got a block steel. It feels solid. This is also had, it's just, the tremolo arm is wobbly, you know. I've had to put a spring in there. Yeah. Also, this has got the sort of, the both 2-point, by the way. The Fender Standard series comes with a 2-point trem. It's just that it's just less, it's lighter. It doesn't feel as high a quality, right? This feels rugged, sturdy. The two knife edges are sort of screw in on this. On the Fender Standard series, they're not. It doesn't even look like there's an Allen key adjustment. They look weird. It's just sort of, they're just kind of there, and I don't know how he would adjust them. It feels like that. But here's the big plus point, right, for the Fender Standard series, is the actual trem works properly. So, you know, it screws in with not much travel, you know, not much, it's not very tight, but I mean, okay, I'll give you an example for this, right? Not a very good example, I guess, because this is just a rubbish trem. That's probably going to come out now. Anyway, bad example, but anyway, this wobbles about like anything, right? Wobbles about like anything. And then so I had to put a spring in it to tighten it up, which was a nightmare. And the Fender Standard series doesn't. It just floats beautifully. Hardly have to touch it. So responsive. It's how a tremolo should be set up. And I'm annoyed at this. Hold on. In fact, I'm going to take it out. So annoyed at that trem. Anyway, I'm drifting here. So yeah, in some ways the trem is a bit of an upgrade, right, on the Fender Standard series, because you've got the blocks and it works. It's just that it feels overall of a lower quality components, but just put together better. You know, I like how it's got the block saddles. I like how I'm not messing about with the trem, and it just, yeah, it just works. So that was surprising. Yeah, so I guess the overall impression that I got, you know, with it was, I do feel like it's a bit of a cash in by Fender, you know, sticking, you know, the Fender label on the headstock. That's all some people want, you know. Us guitarists are very shallow. We want just Fender on the headstock and we're happy. We don't want square on the headstock. And I kind of proved that to myself a few weeks ago. So I was having problems with this neck. The problems are now gone, by the way, but that's another story. So what I did was I took the neck off, and I put a really nice square neck on from like an old 2000 anniversary square that I had lying about. Yeah, nice bit of flame on the back and everything. And I put it on, and I couldn't live with square on the headstock. So I put this back on, and fingers crossed, just reinstalled in the neck, sorted the issues I had with it, but that's another video. So yeah, people want Fender on the headstock, right? So what Fender have done is, they said, okay, here's a $499 guitar with Fender on the headstock, but we're not going to make it in Mexico, we're going to make it in Indonesia. So you're getting a downgraded player Strat, right? It's not made in Mexico even, it's made in Indonesia. How can they charge $499? Why is it not $399? You know, I've seen some people say, oh, it's just a square with a Fender label on. I don't think it is a square, right? I think it's a little step above the squares, right? I think you're always going to have problems out of the box on Fenders these days. That's just how it is. The nut, it's good if you're not really lucky, the nut's going to be cut badly. You're going to need a new nut, or at least have it sorted out. You know, you're gonna have problems with the frets unless you're lucky. So they're going to have to be sorted out. You know, so I think it's quite a level playing field in the sort of affordable Fenders. But I just think they could have just charged $399 and made a lot of people happy. Yeah, but paying $499. Right? Why would you not go up to a player Strat? Why would you not do that? You know, why would you not want the extra fret, the better electrics, the more solid tremolo? I mean, it's up to you, isn't it? What do you think? Drop us a comment. If I'm being honest, I think it confused me. I thought, why have Fender done this? Why have they done it? Have they just tried to say, you know, we want to we want to sell more Fenders, so we're going to make a cheaper version. But the thing is, are these new Indonesian Fenders, are they going to become, you know, uncool? Are they going to become a bit of a laughing stock? You know, the same way, not I know squares aren't a laughing stock, but you know, are people going to feel the same way about an Indonesian Fender as they will do a square? They might do, you know. This might still be the base level of what people can feel that they can stomach. You know, they've got a Mexican-made Fender. I'm happy with that. To be honest with you, you know, getting this guitar has made me not want a USA standard, because this is so close. You know, I've got the colour I want, you know, the features I want with the 22 frets. I'm happy. I don't want to upgrade. I don't see the USA as being an upgrade, but I think what Fender are doing is they're sort of enticing you in with the Fender headstock on these Indonesian standard series, right? But they're not giving you the 22 fret. They're trying to entice you up to a player, right? That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get people off the squares, spend a bit more money. £499 for an Indonesian Strat. Fender have been making these since day dot. £499, really? Yeah, and they're trying to say, right, and then you're going to upgrade to a player. And then what I think what people don't realise is once they get up to the player, see, a lot of people won't bother upgrading to the USA, right? It's just not worth it. I think that's one of the reasons why Fender sort of realised this and they brought out the Player 2, which is more a vintage style, you know. This is a modern guitar, right? The same as the USA American Pro 2, right? So that's why I don't want to upgrade. But the new Player 2 is more vintagey, so that's giving players a reason to upgrade the USA again, because they might want to go modern, not vintage like the Player 2. I'm waffling, I'm sorry. So that means it's probably the end of the video. Anyway, I just wanted to give you my thoughts. You know, haven't tried the Fender standard series. I played the telly as well, it seemed okay, but yeah. Initially, the deal breaker is that 21 frets. It feels lower quality. And I feel like Fender have just overpriced it at £499 for a made in Indonesia guitar. And that's all I have to say about that. So thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking and everything. I've got over 700 subs now. I'm trying to get up to the 1,000. So please hit subscribe, hit that bell. Cheers. See you in the next one. Bye.